Bitcoin finds itself setting new lower highs on the hourly chart, indicating that we might see more volatility in the short term for BTC. In today's video, I'm going to be jumping down into the 1 day, 1 week, and 1 hour timeframes, giving my thoughts and opinions on where I think Bitcoin is heading. Let's roll that intro and get right down into it. Okay guys, so as we can kind of see here on our hourly chart, we have found ourselves coming down into new lower highs. Starting things off with our top range here at $45,879. We then tapped this trend line for a third time, coming in at $45,500. We then have a new local high in this area right here, this yellow box area between 44,600 and 44,788, with our high actually being $44,729. And as you can kind of see here, we're setting this downward trend at the moment. Now, we could have refined this trend line a little bit by moving this ever so slightly to come in line with our most recent moves, but I'm going to leave it a little bit higher here as we have got that upper end to kind of consider. On the lower side, if we zoom out of this just a fraction here, you can see that we have got lower lows here as well on our hourly chart. This one's starting off really on the 26th of December at 41,637. We then have another test on the 29th of December of this lower trend line coming at 41,300. And then most recently on the 3rd of January, we came down to 40,750. Okay, so we already know that although we had this breakout to the upside here, and we came into this higher range between the 45,588 and 46,663, we are of course still looking at this potentially breaking down a little bit further. Now, the weekend's going to see some volatility. I would have expected that it's not going to have massive swings in the market, but instead just kind of range sideways. And during this moment, we're probably going to see a lot of things get reset from technical indicators that are going to give us the idea that maybe we're going to break on down a little bit more. On this most recent price action, you can see that the 200 EMA, that is our white line just here, is acting as support. Currently $43,500 for our EMA here, the white EMA, the 200 EMA, is support, with resistance kind of currently looking like the 50 EMA and 50 SMA, but I do not expect that to hold out. We kind of saw that death cross very briefly, it actually reversed on us very quickly here, so nothing too much from that kind of point of view. So you can look at that maybe as a golden cross here with a small push to the upside on our 1 hour time frame. We have got momentum to support the idea of a move to the upside on this 1 hour time frame. You can see that we're down in this low range and we are going to be looking for a move to the upside. It's no guarantee that that's going to happen right away, but it's something to kind of keep an eye on. From our divergence indicator, there's nothing new here. We obviously had the hidden bullish divergence, this one coming in right here as we kind of saw this yesterday at about 5 p.m. Actually about 4 p.m. We saw the hidden bullish divergence and we saw a small move to the upside. I would mark that as now complete after about a 3% move for Bitcoin. So all in all, that's not looking too bad on our hourly chart. Volume profiles are very, very low. So again, we could see a little bit of volume coming here. We probably see another test on the trend line, maybe even break above the trend line. That's going to be something that we're going to be watching out for over the weekend, because if we can break above that trend line, that's going to give us the idea that maybe we can get some kind of momentum back, and maybe look at some of those existing highs at around $45,500. Okay, so we'll see whether or not we can get some volume in the market over the weekend. If not, we'll just kind of range sideways in here and probably be looking at breaking down earlier next week, maybe Sunday, late Sunday, early Monday. Okay guys, so here on the daily we can see that we have higher highs and higher lows, and we have found brief support right here down here on the 50 EMA. So our low trend line connecting to these two lows, the low of the 11th of December and the low of the 3rd of January, the 50 EMA being the support level of the 3rd of January. Connect those two on our trend line, you can see here. So good support being found on the 50 EMA at the moment, that's the red line. Currently that is 41,123. Price obviously has moved up quite a bit here, back up into our range previously of resistance, 43,000. What is that? Let me actually have a look at that. 43,847 to $44,650. That's going to be the previous area where we saw rejection. We actually briefly got above here and then really were rejected, this area is still acting as our area of resistance, but we are chewing through some of those sell orders, indicating that we might find some kind of resurgence back through this range a little bit. We can continue up a little bit higher, of course. We still do have 48 to 52,000 being highlighted on our daily time frame, and we're not yet up in that overbought range on our stochastic RSIs, so we do know that we have some upward momentum still there available should demand come on in. Now, from our divergence indicator, there's nothing new here. The last divergence we saw was the 29th of December. We've seen that play out already. The RSI is still above the midline, but I wouldn't be looking at this overly too confidently at the moment. I will be looking for this to kind of come on down into the lower ranges at some point soon. So more aligned to kind of the weekly time frames and that kind of stuff. Let's go ahead and throw the volumes on and bring this back down into play here, so you can kind of see how the volume profiles are very, very low. Again, not much has really changed over this. You can kind of see that volumes in early 2023 were significantly higher than they are right now. We zoom in on the most recent kind of volume profiles and stuff. You can see as prices pushed up into higher highs, we actually do have a decrease in the volume. So again, it's one of those things that I keep a close eye on it. We're not seeing enough demand to really come in here and continue pushing up, unless of course we see shrinkage of the supply, which is one of the things that we have seen basically allow Bitcoin to move the way that it has done. Is basically Bitcoin's come away from the exchanges, less available for buying, and therefore the demand that is there has to compete for the little supply that remains. So supply demand imbalances are ultimately what I see as the main catalyst for the price move to the upside pretty much for the last 6 months, and we have started to see Bitcoin actually flowing back to the exchanges over the last few days, and so we'll start to see potentially the supply demand imbalance occur where we see price dropping because there's too much supply for the demand currently out there for Bitcoin. Now, of course, we have to consider that ETF news is just around the corner as well, and the ETF news could be bringing some pretty interesting price action for Bitcoin. I reckon we'll probably see a surge up and then a massive drop to the downside, as I do expect Bitcoin to see a sell the news event on Bitcoin spot ETFs. Now, that's under an approval. If we see a rejection, we're just going to see panic in the market and a lot of negativity in terms of price action as well. I think the delay scenario would also present the same. So no matter what scenario here, I just see price action going down because either you get approved, there's no products to actually invest in, there's no additional demand coming in, everyone was preempting the Bitcoin ETFs and therefore they sell their Bitcoin because they bought in early and they can take their profits, and I think you'll see a sell the news event based on that. If it gets delayed, I think that's going to cause panic and you'll see basically profits being taken. Again, you'll see price move downwards, and if everything gets rejected, well, you're going to see basically just mass panic in the market and again Bitcoin move down. So every scenario I see here for Bitcoin, I just see it moving down, unfortunately. Now on a weekly time frame, we can see that our stochastics are really, really high on the weekly and on the monthly time frame, indicating that we are likely to see very significant pull to the downside. Now, obviously, we have on this particular chart the CME news where we saw an 82% drop. Now we have the Coinbase IPO, we saw a drop. We saw the futures ETFs, we saw a drop, right? And so every one of these big things where we've had a date associated with them has usually ended up with a reversal in the market. And I know there's going to be people out there say, oh look, it just happened at the top of the market, it's just a coincidence, and that's not really what's going on here, right? This news brought in that top. It wasn't the other way around. It wasn't just, it coincidentally coincided with the CME news. Same with our Coinbase. It's not that this was a local top just because, randomly Coinbase, just happened to coincide with a local top. That wasn't what happened. The Coinbase news, the IPO, brought in the local top. And same up here, right? We have this local top, then we have a futures ETF. If it wasn't for this, do you think we would have bounced and actually tested up higher? Possibly. But we had the ETF news, sold the news, and of course you saw more to the moves to the downside. Okay, now of course we had the Wyckoff distribution happening at this time as well. So here we are with the Bitcoin spot ETF approvals some point in January here, probably next week. And well, what we're looking at, we're going to be looking for potentially sell the news events, as all these other ones with known dates have been kind of sell the news. So my expectations here, considering our momentum indicators are heavily overbought on the weekly and monthly timeframes is a nice healthy correction to the downside. And I'm talking 30% is a healthy correction for Bitcoin. That gets you back down to 30K. If you have a 40% correction, then you're going to be dropping down even more. Again, I've gone through this a number of different times. The good news is, though, that once this is done, I think we're going to see a really good significant surge to the upside. Okay, and target range is going to be up here between $98,000 and $173,000. That's going to be my expectations on Bitcoin on the kind of the weekly and monthly timeframes. Once we see these healthy corrections to the downside, we're going to be looking for a really nice run to the upside. The entire crypto market is going to be very, very healthy, I think, later part of this year. We just need to kind of get through probably the first quarter. Once we're past quarter one, I think quarter two, quarter three, and quarter four are going to be very, very healthy for Bitcoin and for the crypto market. So you can let me know what your thoughts are on all of that in the comments below. And if you're interested in the price action of Cardano, then I urge you guys to check out this video right here, where JB goes through all the technical analysis on Cardano and shares his thoughts and opinions on where he thinks the price is heading.